Okay, what are you saying, people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today, guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you. On the screen, other pairs will be analyzing today. Make sure you do stay to the end of the video though, because I will be going through each pair, analyzing what happened this week, and obviously forecasting the next as well. But I do hope you enjoy the video. But with all that said, let's get straight into it. Okay, so up first, like usual, we've got Euro USD, and as you can see for this pair, the market is still bearish, and we had some more downside this week, which was expected. I said last week we're looking for more downside. Overall targets, higher time frame targets, will be back down at these lows, but I did give out some targets on the H4 to look at this week. Haven't quite made some new lows, but we're still expecting that to happen for Euro USD. On the higher time frames, everything is still bearish. All we're seeing is that downside momentum, so I'm still expecting more downside. In fact, from a longer term perspective, I'm still actually looking for Euro USD to come back down into these lows here, so all the way around the 1.06 area. I do think that's where Euro USD will be heading to in the next coming weeks, maybe a couple months or so. So yeah, I'm still expecting more downside for Euro, but for next week I'm expecting some new lows. Again, not next week, I'm expecting this low to be taken out, but that's just a higher time frame target to have in the back of our heads. But first, because we did see a lot of downside momentum this week, you know, we opened up from around here and we just kind of dropped for Euro USD. We saw a lot of bearish momentum. Didn't really see a pullback that I was looking for. I had some areas I was looking at up here, some resistance I was looking for the market to pull back into, but we just didn't see that pullback. So this week I'm looking for that pullback. We have quite an overextended move. Euro USD is probably looking you know, quite oversold, so I'm expecting some life to come back into Euro USD. A pullback, I've got a few areas where I'm looking at. Will be the main area. So this support, which gave us that last move to the upside, now is resistance. Haven't come back to retest that, or if we do pull back a little bit deeper, and then I'll be looking at this resistance here at 1.11. So two areas I'm looking at: targets for Euro USD back down these lows. I'm expecting these lows to be taken out. So you know, you see, we pull back into this area and roll over, or we pull back into this area and roll over. The only way I'll turn bullish for Euro is if we take out that resistance, but I'm not seeing that happening anytime soon. So yeah, these are the kind of the setups I will be looking at for Euro, back down to those lows. And if we have a deeper pullback than expected, again, still looking for that lower high as long as we stay below 1.11, and targets back down at those lows at 1.08 for next week. Okay, so next up we've got USD JPY. So as you can see with this pair, the market is still very, very bullish now. I said I gave out a very nice area of where price could, you know, potentially break or retest or hold to work with, where we could use as a good level to base our bias from on the 4H time frame. Now this level specifically was this area here at 122,400, and as you can see, we did consolidate above that level. Last week I believe we finished around here, and then the start of this week, Monday, Tuesday, we were holding above, and from that, as you can see, price rallied. I said last week I wanted to see price break underneath this for the move to the downside, giving us that head and shoulders, but you know, unfortunately price stayed above, consolidated and broke to the upside. And last week I said if we do stay like that, price could, you know, come back to 124, back to highs potentially. So the market is still looking quite bullish, and I do think the market could probably head higher. I've been looking at the higher time frames for USD JPY to get a bit big of a scope for this pair, and I still do see the market heading higher. To be honest, this wick up here, I do think the market's getting ready to take this out at 125,733. I do believe we're going to take out that wick before we might see that bigger correction we are looking for, because the market is definitely overextended and very bullish right now. So you know, we do need to see that correction sooner or later, but I think we could see another bullish leg take out those highs before we do come back underneath and see that downside move, you know, we're all looking for. So for USD JPY, now, as long as we stay above this area here, I'm looking for a pullback for price to go bullish, essentially to take up those highs. Obviously, this will be a target to look at and not to try and buy into. So I'm looking at pullback to happen for USD back to one of these areas. We do have some nice support and resistance here, and also the level from last week. Either one of these areas I do think will be a nice area to go long from. Of course, if you do break through this level here, I'll be changing my bias back to bearish, like I was last week, because I was looking for the break underneath and then the follow through to the downside, but then that never happened. We stayed above. So if you can get back below, then I will go bearish, but as long as we stay above these levels, I'm expecting this wick here on the monthly to be taken out, before we do actually see that bearish trend come through, because there will be a lot of liquidity above those highs, and I do think the market is on its quest to go and take out that wick to give us some new highs. So this is the setup that we're looking for USD JPY for next week. Looking for a pullback. There's a chance we could just fly to the upside like we did not too long ago. We opened up bullish, I believe, around here and just flew. We could definitely do that and take out that wick. But I'm looking for a pullback before I do look for any entries, and these are the areas where I'm looking for that pullback to happen, and targets at 125.733. So pull back into 122.900 or pull back into 122.400, and then longs back into 125.700 for next week. Okay, so next up we've got USD CAD. So as you can see, USD CAD looking a little bit bullish this week. We were looking for some retracement, as a push from that support level there on the left. I still do have my higher time frame target on price reaching 1.23 all the way down here, but I am looking for that pullback, which I do think is happening right now. As you can see, we've had a lot of consecutive bearish candles to the downside, really strong bearish leg. So we're looking for that pullback, the next lower high. I think that's going to be forming over the next couple of days or few days, and I do think the market will probably roll over probably for the next 3-4 weeks. I'm not expecting that to be done in one go. I'm looking for a bit of a pullback. It might take a week or two, and then the higher time frame move back down to 1.23. So the plan for USD CAD, I'm looking for a pullback into one of two areas. This area being the first one, which price is just about coming into 1.262, and the second area, which is this higher level up here at 1.27. Either one of these areas, I'm looking to hold as resistance for that bigger downside move. So we do have a support area here, which will be obviously the low target. We're not going to look to trade it all the way back down to that low for next week. Just looking for a push back down into these lows. So yeah, for next week for USD CAD, I'm looking at retracement from either 1.262 or 1.27. And I'm just literally looking to sell the market if I can get some good price action there. We'll be monitoring on the 4H and the hourly, and then looking for entries to take it right back down. Again, if I just go in the higher time frame quickly after I draw this in, just to show you the fib that I'm looking at from the high to from the low to the high. We do have a fib from this low. Get my highs and lows confused. From that high all the way down to this low, looking for the market to pull back. We've got 50% just above that level, so I normally like to see the market come to around 50% at least before I do look for the bigger swing. So I do think the market might push a little bit higher, maybe into the 0.61, into that 1.27 level before the drop. But that's again just for reference. But these are the two levels I'm looking to work with, 1.262 and 1.27, and targets will be down at 1.246, and we'll have some minor targets around here as well. But that is the plan next week for USD CAD. Sorry to interrupt the video, guys, but if you are enjoying the content and you find it useful, make sure you go hit the subscribe button down below, and also make sure you drop a like as well. It really does help the channel out. But anyway, back to the video. Okay, so Euro Pound up next, and for this pair, really nice move to the downside this week, which was expected. I do believe the target I gave out for the week was this support just above 0.83, which you can see price just hit about hit on Friday there. The higher time frame target, the longer term target, I'm still expecting Euro Pound to come back down to these lows at 0.827 and take them out. So I'm still expecting more downside for Euro Pound, but this is a very, very strong support. As you can see, price has really respected this. This is clearly a false break of that support. So it is a strong support we're working with, and we could see some healthy pullback before we do go and break that support and go to that higher time frame target down at 0.82. So the way I'm going to approach euro pound for next week is in two ways. Either because we're very bearish looking at the higher time frames, and you can see the market still trending in this bearish structure here. I'm still expecting to move back to the lows. So we could either break through the support, retest it, and then look for our shorts from that point of view. So just a simple break and retest, hold underneath, looking for some sales all the way back down into the lows, stops above the level, of course, something like that. Or we could obviously have a pullback to the upside. If that's the case, I'm looking at pullback into this sort of area here, which is where we held the consolidation for a few days, as you can see, before that break to the downside. So I'm looking at the market coming back, holding as resistance there, and then rolling over. So I will be looking at sells from this area here as well for euro pound, and again same target, but we'll have first TP at this level, of course, because it's a strong daily area of support. But I would be expecting it to break and the market to head all the way back down to 0.82. So that is what I'm looking at for euro pound. Still very bearish on this pair after that lower swing high. I'm anticipating here, so I'm expecting the market to give us new lows now, but that might take a week or two. But that is what I'm expecting for euro pound. Pull back into 0.838 and then shorts from there if we can hold, or if we just go and break through, looking for the retest of 0.83, 831, and then shorts back into 0.82 for next week. Okay, so next up we got AUD USD. Now for this pair coming into the week, I was bearish on AU. I said as long as we stay beneath this high here on the left at 0.755, I'm still looking at AUD USD coming much lower to come back and retest this level here, which is at 0.73. So I'm still expecting downside for AU. We opened up quite bullish, as you can see. We ran the highs to the upside very aggressively. I think that was Monday, Tuesday, big spike all the way up to 0.765 in some areas here on the left, and then we came straight back down the rest of the week. So I'm looking at that as a bit of a false move there, maybe grabbing some liquidity, faking out some buyers, taking out some sellers, and then we're getting ready for that bigger pullback, which I am looking for. So as long as the AUD stays below 0.755, which is this level here on the left, I'm looking at the market coming back down to 0.73, get back above 0.755, use it as support, then I'm actually looking at price coming back into 0.77. So I do have targets either which way for AU. So even if we do break to the upside, use 0.755 as support, then I'm expecting some upside back into 0.7. We can look at the break and retest, take advantage of that. But because of this false move, I'm expecting price to rally back down into 0.73. So same as last week, still bearish on AUD. I'm looking at two opportunities to trade this one. We had the consolidation here, which we've broken out of as well. So now I'm looking at the market just retesting the low of the consolidation and a push back down into 0.73. So I'm just looking at a lower high forming now for this one. Or if we do break to the upside, then we'll be looking for that head and shoulders. And again, exact same targets. Again, probably will have some targets beforehand to look at to manage the trade and take some profit off the table. But these are the trades I'm looking for. And last, if we do break through both these areas and we don't hold 0.755 as resistance, then like I said, I'm looking for 0.77, and that will be the trade opportunity I would have in mind. Again, mainly focus on the sells. So I'm not seeing the market get above that, but if I'm wrong and if we do, then I will be looking at the buys back into 0.77. But this is the trade setups I'm mainly focused on this week. Next week, and trade setups that I'm focused on for next week for AUD USD. Okay, so next we're going to move on to NZD CAD. So NZD CAD, big Friday for this one, as you can see with that bearish candle. NZD CAD, to be honest, has been a little bit messy, a little bit difficult to read with those daily candlesticks, and the 4 hour as well, a little bit messy. But the market has slowly rolled over. You can see if I go in the 4H, probably see a little bit better. obviously helping with hindsight and everything, but you can see these lower swing points that the market was placing, and now we are rolling to the downside. So I am looking at NZD CAD coming a lot further, and the main thing I've noticed on the weekly time frame, which if we can stay below, I'm expecting NZD CAD to be falling a lot further over the next few weeks or so, because we do have to take into account the market is still technically bearish. As you can see, looking at the weekly time frame, still low lows and lower highs, and this potentially could just be a bullish pullback for a continuation back down again. We are respecting that previous lower swing point there at 0.87 or just above, around 0.875. This is a very critical level of support for NZD CAD, which held the consolidation, which price broke out, formed that low, and now broke back inside. But as you can see with this candle, this week's candle, we actually closed back below. So if we can hold that below, I'm actually expecting NZD CAD to be falling for the next few weeks. So pretty much, if that's the case, any bullish rallies you see for the next few weeks, this should be looking to short them back down really for NZD CAD and take advantage of that trend that could, if we do stay below, that could form. So I'm looking at pullback, to come back and retest this level. I'm looking at more downside, and I've got targets down here for NZD CAD, and also some support here I'm looking at as well. So a couple targets, obviously before the overall target down there, but that is what I'm looking at for NZD CAD. So this level of support here, which gave us that big move, and also this resistance here as well. So I'm looking at a pullback, about to retest this level, give me a lower high, and I'll be looking for sells. Again, these are the targets for the week. Probably won't really look at that one until maybe a few weeks later, unless the trend has redeveloped. But yeah, I'm looking at that swing point there, and also this trend line here as well. As long as we don't break through this trend line, I'm still bearish. So if we do break back above, retest the trend line, and then drop, I will be looking for that lower swing point there as well. Again, targets down there at 0.849 and 0.854. We do have some nice resistance. Price can come back and retest there as well. So NZD CAD bearish on this one, looking for the market to break to the downside out this choppy kind of consolidation here. Nice couple targets to work with below the higher time frame target, or above the higher time frame target. First area I'm looking to get involved is 0.863, second area around the 0.869, and targets back down at 0.849 for next week. Okay, so next up we've got pound NZD. So as you can see for this pair this week, a little bit of upside. We're seeing some bullish momentum. We have been extremely bearish over the past few days, few weeks as well. Going to the higher time frame quickly on the weekly, you can see we are holding onto this weekly prior swing low area, which gave us this nice bullish rally there. You can see we're holding onto this, some nice wicks to the downside, and a really strong hammer candlestick pattern there for this week's candle. So we could be seeing a bit of a relief to the upside now for pound NZD, particularly if we can hold above this level. Coming into the week, I was still bearish, looking for the market to continue to roll over back down to some areas around 1.86, 1.85. Again, we were trading below this trend line. I was looking for a low high to form and for price to roll over, but we've actually broken through that resistance there. So the market is looking a little bit bullish, and I do think, with the weekly price action weekly level, if we do stay above this kind of 0.89 area, I do think we can see a bit of a relief for pound NZD back into this area up here around 1.925, 1.93. So that is what I'm looking at for pound NZD. I've got that nice trend line break. If price can hold above this level here, I will be looking to go bullish on pound NZD for some longs. Really nice support, looking for the retest of that, give me the next higher low, and then a little bit of a head and shoulders there. So left shoulder, the head, the right shoulder, and then looking for some continuation back up again. Do have to watch out for this level here though, because this is a very strong level. You can see this held really nice bullish moves here on the left around 1.90700, and also really strong resistance as well for the sell-off. So we'll keep an eye on that level. Again, if we do get into any longs, that would be the first target for this trade. Second target, if we can break through, will be up around that 1.93 area. If the level holds and price see some nice upside but rejects this and gets back underneath this strong level here, then I will be looking for a push back down to lows, which will be 1.87 150. So break and retest this level, I will go bearish again, because again the market is still definitely bearish. But if all we do is just form another lower high, then we will probably come back to lows. So that is what I'm looking at for pound NZD. Let me just clean that up a little bit so it's easier to read. Break and retest that, we'll look for sells, stay above and hold. We'll look for longs, again just monitor 4H hourly for entries and targets to work with for next week for pound NZD. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to CAD JPY. So as you can see, the market is still quite bullish. We're still seeing that bullish momentum from the higher time frame trends. You can see in the 4H, not too much movement. I believe we might have finished the week around here. And again, you can see pretty much just sideways from that with a bit of intra-week bullish momentum there. So we're still trading at the higher time frame level, because again, I have to jump to the monthly to actually get a point to reference with CAD JPY right now. As for the lower time frames, we've broken through so many levels. I have to step back to the monthly to actually see what's going on with the pair. And we're coming to this 100 level. So this is where I'm looking for the market to have some relief, some downside, some correction before maybe continuing back to 106 all the way up there. So I'm still looking at that big correction, but we could still obviously push through if the market wanted to and even tap to highs. So on the lower time frames, but on the daily anyway, we've got this resistance here that the market is failing to break through. And I do think as long as we can stay below that, we could roll over and see that correction I'm looking for. Break above, then I do think the market will be pushing back to highs at just past 100 and 100.181. So that is a target, you know, if we do break through this, looking at the break and retest, obviously probably want to drop to the hourly, maybe even lower to get a nice risk reward on that trade. But that is definitely a high probable idea if we do break and retest that and push back into those highs. If not, and we can hold that as resistance, then I'm looking at the market rolling over back down into that support there at 97. So with CAD JPY, it's definitely very bullish in the higher time frames. So I am being careful with these shorts, waiting for extra confirmation, making sure the market is giving me some good candlestick patterns and the structure is looking good before I do jump into any sells, because I know if the higher time frame momentum wins, which it normally does, you know, we're definitely coming back to those highs if that resistance is broken. Not definite, shouldn't really use that word, but very, very high chance we'll make it back to those highs. So if anything, the buys are still looking like the better option than the sells. But if we can hold onto this level, we can anticipate that lower high forming and take advantage of that kind of first drop to 97, which could start a nice downtrend potentially forming. So main focus for CAD JPY this week will be this level here at 99, pretty much on the dot. Hold 99, looking for sells, but down to 97, break above, looking for push back to highs. Okay, so now we're going to move on to pound USD. So pound USD this week still looking bearish, some nice downside momentum, and as you can see, these lows have been taken out finally at 1.3. So we've been expecting that downside move, you know, since we formed some bearish price action a couple of weeks ago to take out those lows. And just continue this overall bearish trend, which price is still in, even on the higher time frames, weekly and monthly as well. So I do think that the market for pound USD can still drop further. I'm still looking at more downside. The market is still bearish. Now I'm looking at the market coming back into 1.29, which is this support here, maybe even into 1.28 and 1.27 as well. But next target I'm looking at is this low here on the left at 1.29, before maybe you might see some upside for pound USD. So I'm still looking at a bit more downside if we do pull back a little bit steeper. Again, I'm just really looking to short the rallies, really, as long as we don't break past 1.32, which is a strong level in recent price action, really strong level. As you can see, I had a bit of that false break, straight up, straight back down, consolidated and dropped. As long as we stay below 1.32, I'm looking at that 1.29. So I know that's a big gap, but if we do see some strong if we do see some strength in the pound, or really if you see a lot of weakness in the dollar and we start flying, you know, as long as we stay through 1.32, I'm just going to short that rally right back down, break above, I'll probably change my bias and look for push back to the highs. But as long as we stay below, I'm looking at those shorts. But obviously there's a few levels here I'm looking to work with, you know, before if we do actually hit 1.32 all the way up there. So obviously break and retest of the prior low at 1.3, we'll be looking at that happening because we could still roll over. The market is still quite bearish right now. I know we've seen a bit of rejection there, but we could still roll over quite quickly early on in the week. So we'll be looking at break and retest of the low. Also we'll be looking at break and retest of this low here, which held the market there a few times, consolidating, which then finally broke to the downside on Friday. We'll be looking for a break and retest of that first target down back at 1.3, and then next target at 1.29. And then finally, if we do that, that deeper retracement, we'll also be looking at 1.32 if we do have a bit of a rally to the upside, and targets, yeah, right back down to 1.3. So that's 1.29, sorry. So that's what I'm looking at for pound USD, just looking at a pullback, same as euro really, euro USD, looking at pullbacks and expecting more downside for pound USD, and targets, next targets at 1.29. Okay, so next up we've got pound CAD. So pound CAD still giving us bearish structure here on the daily and the 4 hour as well. This week, not too much. We did see some nice upside, but really the market is just still struggling at that resistance, and that is the level that I did hand out last week, saying if we can hold on to this, some nice shorts. I also was talking about if we do break through, still looking for shorts because of the high time frames are still definitely bearish. I'm still looking at price coming a lot lower. So these are the two targets I gave out last week, and pretty much the two same areas I'm looking at again this week. You know, come back, retest that, looking for shorts again, or if we do rally to the upside, I'm looking at 1.656, holding it as support, term resistance, and then still expecting the market to roll over. I still do have higher time frame targets of where I'm expecting the market to go. Looking at the monthly, and the market is rolling over, taking out a very strong level of support and resistance here at 1.68, and I am expecting the market to come back, you know, into these lows here, which is at 1.58794. So 1.59 I'm expecting the market to come into. Again, this is the monthly chart, so definitely higher time frame, longer perspective. May take 3, 4, 5, 6 months to get there. We could consolidate for a couple of months, who knows. But in terms of direction, I'm expecting the market to roll over further, and the target for next week is the same target as last week, which is this swing point here. You can see the market pushed, pull back, pushed, pull back, and then had a really strong move to the upside, and we're looking at the market to come back and retest this support here at 1.62400. So that is the plan for the week, looking at pushback down into these lows here. We do obviously have this support to take into account of as well, but that will be the target. So simply only looking for shorts for pound CAD. Another retest of this resistance would be great, push back into 1.625. But if you do rally, see some upside, again looking for that next lower high. Next lower high, lagging a little bit there, and looking at the market coming right back down into that higher time frame level. So yeah, bearish on pound CAD, looking for more downside for next week, back into 1.625 for next week. Okay, so on to pound JPY next. So again, another JPY pair. We've seen some more upside this week. We're still trading at our resistance slash supply zone on the monthly time frame, as you can see here. That area which we're working with, you know, where we found a really strong move to the downside, consolidated for a little bit on the retest, big drop to the downside. We're still at this zone here, so still looking to see if we can hold or break through this level. Break through, I'm expecting the market to come a lot higher into the 180s. Hold, we can come back down and retest some levels down here, maybe even deep into the 140s. So very, very strong level that we're trading in, and it's hard to say if we're going to break through or not. Again, sometimes you can tell in the lower time frames if price is going to break through a level. So far, we're still seeing that bullish momentum, but some levels are still holding. So Need to see if we can break through this resistance here. If we do, I'm looking at the market coming right back into 164,500, and then maybe you could see a potential break. But if we hold this level, then I'm looking at the market coming back into 159, especially if we can get a break of this trend line here, retest lower high, something like that, and then I'm looking at 159 there. Because pound JPY is still bullish. Like I said, with other JPY pairs, they are still bullish, and if they do start breaking through levels, I'm expecting them to go a lot higher. And I don't want to be looking to short this pair or these JPY pairs in general too early, because I do think that downside correction is happening soon. But happening soon could be next week, or it could even be 3 or 4 weeks later. We could still see some consolidation, a bit more upside before we do see that bearish trend form. So you're much better off dropping to the lower time frames and still buying these pairs up as they continue. So I'm gonna wait for some rejection here, break of that trend line. Again, price kind of just consolidating, so need a little bit more. But essentially for next week, if we can reject this area, I'm looking at sales. Again, a few places where we can look to target, but overall looking at sales for pound JPY. If we hold 162.95, break above, then basically expecting price to rally back to highs and just see that higher time frame trend just win the battle and see that continuation. So again, not gonna ignore the longs or the shorts, going to treat them both equally. If we break above, we'll have that long bias. Hold, we'll have that short bias. So need to see how price develops into the week, but essentially hold 162.370, looking at shorts back down into 159, break above, we'll look for the retest, and longs back to highs at 164.500. Okay, so next up we've got gold. So gold this week, not too much until Friday. As you can see, we're starting to see some bullish momentum again. Again, I'm still overall bullish on gold, but the past few days have been very, very choppy. So I haven't been looking too much into price action. I'm waiting for price to make its move before I do look to get involved. Like I was saying last week, really, I gave out 2 levels which I'm looking at to break, and I'm looking for the retest of. So we've got this clear level of support where price was holding, false break, clear level of resistance, false break of that as well. I'm looking at either one of these 2 levels to break the retest, and then I'm looking for the continuation. And as you can see, we're starting to see some bullish momentum, and it's starting to go in the direction I'm expecting gold to go. So if we can get that break, the retest of this 1945 level, we'll be looking at longs back up into 2000. Which was the original targets a couple of weeks ago for gold, before we had that rejection there and started to consolidate some more. But that is where I'm expecting price to go now. Again, we'll have some targets here to take some profit at, because we could definitely reject it and come back into the consolidation. And if we do come back into the consolidation for gold next week, again, I probably will just be staying away until I start to see some strong moves breaking one of these 2 levels, so I can get some clear price action. Because in here it was very, very choppy. Like I said in my streams, simply looking to buy at the support, sell at the resistance, and that's probably the best way to really take advantage of this. But to look for the swing, you want price to make the move, and then we can catch the retracement of that. So now that price looks like it might be breaking again, we just about closed below. Need a little bit more than that, because we could obviously close right back below the next candle. But essentially what I'm looking for is the retest of 1945 and targets at 2000 for next week. And if for some reason, if we go bearish, we'll be looking at the retest of 1917 and looking for sales back down into 1870, which is this level down here. So if we do go bearish for some reason, that is what I'll be looking for as well. But that is primarily the setup I'm looking for gold, and targets up at 2000 for next week. And last but not least, we've got Bitcoin. So as you can see, Bitcoin's a nice downside momentum this week. Now I'm looking at 44k a lot for Bitcoin, and also 48 as well, which is the resistance that price has rejected. And I'm mainly focused on 44k because, as you can see previously, really strong resistance and held the market moving sideways before we did get that break a few days ago. So like I said last week, if we hold below 44k, I'm expecting a lot more downside for Bitcoin. Got a nice trend line going through the market here, and that's what I'll be looking for price to come into, and then potentially this support here around the 38k mark as well. So that is something I'll be looking for a nice swing opportunity for Bitcoin if we do hold 44k, break above 44k, and then we'll probably head back into 48, and then maybe even some high highs into 50. So again, 44 is definitely an important area to be focusing on for shorts and for long opportunities, because if we do break above and get that solid retest, I do think price will head back into those highs that we were trading at last week. So we'll be focusing on 44k. You can see we had a brief retest of that level, of that consolidation, looking for the market to come a little bit deeper, see if we can hold that, then drop, or if we do break above, then like I said, we'll be waiting for that retest for some upside back into 48. But that is the plan for Bitcoin going into next week. Okay guys, that is the end of the video. I hope you all enjoyed that and found that useful. Like always guys, any questions, agree or disagree, or didn't understand anything, let me know and leave it in the comment section down below, and I will get back to you. If you are enjoying the content, like, share, subscribe, does really help the channel out. I really am grateful for all of that. And also hit the bell as well if you don't want to miss out any streams or any other uploads in the future. But I do hope you guys enjoy your weekend. Take care and have a great week next week.